All right, we want to welcome you on today, Facebook family and friends, to a class that we teach here at BHU University called Global Leadership. But before I talk about the class and what's going to happen today, and I want to talk about Beulah Heights' mission statement here. And Beulah Heights' mission statement here is to develop relevant Christian leaders for ministry and marketplace. And again, I want to stress relevant. So therefore, as a professor here and as chair of the Department of Leadership and Business, I wanted to give the students an experience that they could actually live out the mission statement. So in our global leadership class, we planned a study abroad program where the students will get a chance to travel to a global community, and that global community was South Africa and Cape Town. And this class was built around the leadership of Nelson Mandela, who I think is probably the 21st century conceptualization of what it means to be a transformational leader. And the students was assigned to read 3 books: My Trader's Heart, The Long Walk to Freedom by the story of Nelson Mandela's life, and also Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. And so we have 2 of the students that had the opportunity to go to South Africa and to actually experience it. And so what we want to do here, we want to get them to share their experience. And if you have some questions out there, as we talk about it, you can send it to us, and I will let them answer it and share their experience. So I'm going to open up by letting everyone introduce themselves. I'm Dr. Jackson, here at Beulah Heights University, so chair of Leadership and Business Department. And I'm going to let Maria introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Maria Jones, and I live in Columbus, Georgia. I attend Beulah Heights University. I've been here for a year now, and I'm studying a master's in leadership and coaching.
Hello there. I'm Simon Kamau. I came from Kenya. I came in the year 2018. I'm now here in Beulah Heights University 1 year and 4 months, doing my master's in leadership.
Well, hello.
And in this class. And I'm doing master's in leadership. And thank you. Take part in our conversation. Yeah.
Hello, my name is John Jackson. I'm a senior, graduating this May in a couple of weeks with a major in divinity, concentration, leadership. Been here roughly 6 years. Enjoy this as a lovely school. Profound professors, and all of them are knowledgeable. It's a good place to matriculate as far as our good education. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cheryl Brooks, and my major is Master's in Divinity. I've been here a couple of years. I still have a couple of years to go. Thank you.
Glad to have you, Cheryl.
Glad to be here.
Again, let me say that Beulah Heights' mission statement is to develop relevant Christian leaders for ministry and marketplace. So it's not only to prepare you for ministry in the pulpit, but also to be able to be a global leader with a Christ-centered education. So as I said, we have 3 of the students who had the opportunity to travel abroad to Cape Town, South Africa, to the place Nelson Mandela, and get a chance to experience a global context of leadership. So I want to start off with this question to the group, and in Trevor Noah's book, he said that the genius of apartheid was to turn the majority against each other. And so I want to know, how did you all experience, with that understanding? How did you experience it there, and what did you experience? And so I want to start there and hear that.
Well, basically, I would think that turning the majority against each other, probably the residue is not so profound today that maybe it was when it first started out, other than we're being told that there are at least 8 languages that are being officially, as far as Cape Town is concerned. However, you still have English being one of the widely spoken. Afrikaner is the official language. So I think maybe if we would have gone further out, we would have been able to encounter some of those things, but I didn't find that as far as apartheid was concerned at this particular time.
Hi, I as well enjoyed my trip in Cape Town, South Africa. I, of course, believe that we did not see apartheid close up and personal, but there is some subtle residue. What comes to my mind is, I guess in my being there, I did see somewhat of, people living in different places, sections.
Yes.
One particular situation was, of course, we just rode around and kind of got a tour, and I believe that one of the areas that we visited was the poorer part of Cape Town, which was predominantly the blacks. I was just thinking about this different sections. They were called whites, colored, and black. But it was the black section. And I believe the term squatters was given to us. And, it was a sight to see. And I'm sure definitely a residue of apartheid. And it was an experience.
Mostly what we're seeing was very pleasant, because we went to a lot of tourist locations, but we did also have the opportunity to go out, and as they said, we were in some of the poorer sections of Cape Town, so we had the opportunity to see the people living on the streets and the beggars, but sometimes that was mixed in. So it wasn't one of those things where you've seen it clearly. But one thing I do recall is they were talking about a lady, her name was Amy, I can't remember her last name, and she was slayed. She was killed because she was an activist there. Then they showed the 7. We went and we seen the statue of the 7 that had been slayed for their activism against apartheid. We also seen where a lot of homes were gated. That it seems like, I would say, I don't know, 85% of the homes were gated because of what could happen, therefore, or whatever else. One of the other things that was brought to my attention was, I had my cell phone, I was sitting in the back seat, and the light came up on my cell phone, and he said, our driver, put it down, because if the robots see it, we could have problems, or you never know who could see it from around. So I don't know if that was a conflict with apartheid, but it was prevalent that it was something to be concerned about.
One of the things that Trevor Noah brings up in the book is that apartheid divided them into sections, where you had certain groups living together, the blacks, the Africanos, and all of that. So did you all see that? Did you see the concrete reality of that?
Well, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna give a yes. I believe we did see that. To what degree, like my sister here said, you know, the majority of the trip was pleasant, but we did see some of that going on.
I would say pretty much the same, in that biblically, would be the section that we went where they was off the road, where they were saying this was pretty much where Travelers North grandmother was, next to the highway. It was like boxed in. But there again, I guess Travelers talks about how it would be set up that the township was in such a way that it could be easily bombed. But at the same time, it's almost like you got poverty, objective poverty, and then you got the haves, so to speak. So it was off from a place, and then when you're thinking about, it's just that it's almost, I couldn't say that it was profound unless you knew what you was looking at, because if you're going fast, you couldn't really, maybe you might not pay attention to it unless it is pointed out to you. Because that's the way the roads are designed, almost to take you around and away from those things that are not so pleasant.
Okay, well, let me put this question out here. What important insights did you all gain about being a global leader? What did you bring back with you from South Africa, from the trip, from the experience, about being a global leader and what global leadership is all about?
Well, there again, it's you almost, when you're coming back and you start analyzing what you actually saw and the experience that you actually had, how would that amount to a global leader? And I think being a global leader is, and I think Maria Jones she talks about it, it's a mindset. You know, so by having a mindset about the global leadership, that then when you see that you're not talking about just your backyard or the city or even the national situation, you're talking about a global point of view, and having a global mindset allows you to see beyond what you had at first.
And I think that's an important point, because, you know, when we talk about globalization, and as a professor, when I teach it, I think it's hard for students in this context to really comprehend what they really mean, and how technology and all of the other innovations that have happened have connected us together.
Correct.
That everyone is your neighbor. And so, and I think that idea of a mindset is a very important point. So what do you guys think about that, Maria?
Well, along
Sure.
with what John said, of course, it let me think broader, my experience. But one of the things that it did help me to see is that we're all connected in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Whether it be, you know, when you go to different countries and you're able to go out globally, you realize you're able to see the similarities, you're able to see also the differences, but you're able to bring that together and almost connect you with people that are, say, not like you, of different race, different color, different just nationalities. And so as I went, I was able to see some similarities, I was able to see some differences, and I was able to connect. And it was amazing with some of the Afrikaans that we came in contact with. There was an awesome connection. And so I think it just made me see on a larger scale that we really are connected. And as a leader, it's fine to see the differences, but it's even better when you can connect and build together.
To me, even though it's global, when we get the opportunity to see what's going on in other places of the world compared to even our world here, things can become smaller, because now we see what is happening there, and we see that their issues, even though they have issues that can be greater than ours, we still have similarities. And with those similarities, our leaders can come together and say, you have this problem, I bet we have a way to resolve. Where you may have a way to resolve for us, or have the ideas that can make things work. When I seen the children in the orphanages, the schools, we have the same things here. But how are we managing it compared to them? And are they doing something better than what we're doing that can help? We're considered a melting pot here because we are the great United States, and people can come in and they can move into this country. Over there, one of the things that we seen while we were there, we were at Robben Island, and one of our tourists, as she was taking us around the island, one of the things that happened in the end of her tour was she started talking about the different dialects. Now, she actually spoke her dialect for us and wanted us to speak back to her. There was no way we could do it because of the way there was a pop in their language that we couldn't do. It was fun to hear. She did explain to us there are 11 different dialects, but during that time in Robben Island, there was only one language that could be spoken, and I believe that was English. The same thing, they had the Holy Bible. That was the only book that they could have in there. So those were interesting things to learn at that time. We use the Holy Bible here. Yes, there are other religions, but I don't know. I think that's one of our main Bibles when we go to different churches. So to see that was so interesting, and that was back years and years ago. So yes, did I learn something? I learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone else did. When our leaders come together, they can sit and they can speak to each other and rationalize on the things that need to be done on a global level. Let's go back to that young lady. At one point, she couldn't speak that dialect on that island, but at that moment she could, and she used her liberty to do it. So it was enjoyable. That's the most I have to say.
Okay. So Simon, I want to give you a chance to ask a question.
Maybe before I ask a question,
Ask the
the question now we are discussing now, I think it is open. And I think because it is about the global leadership, the last question you asked. So I also happen to have come from Kenya to America. One thing I would say about going out is that you get a chance to know other people and to learn different cultures and how people do other things.
Yes.
In my tribe, which I come from in Kenya, we say that whoever doesn't travel says that her or his mother is the one that knows how to cook. But when you go out, you find other women can cook even better.
Yes.
So when you go out, Maybe when you are at home, you think your culture is the best. There are different cultures, and no culture is 100%.
Yes.
You run how other people do. My country, Kenya, has 42 tribes, speaking 42 different languages, but we form one country. We also have 42 different cultures, because every tribe has its own culture.
Yeah.
I can't say that my culture is the best. In fact, I don't come very far from our sister Divine here. Always travel from Mombasa to Congo,
Okay.
taking luggage and things there. So it's not very far. They also have a different culture. I can drive from South Africa to my country. So when you travel, you get a chance to know that people are people.
Yes.
And so that you can understand and take people to be people,
Yeah.
irrespective of their language or their culture.
Mhm.
So we learn. But now, I would like to ask.
Now you get to the question.
Oh,
Yeah, let's get to the question.
now
okay.
I get to the question.
Okay, get to the question.
Now the question I would like to ask is this. When we read Trevor Noah's book, we learned that the people of the good car, the people, the white people, a white person was not around to have illicit carnal sexual intercourse with the opposite person.
Okay.
And if a white person would have a relationship with a black woman, he was supposed to be jailed 5 years.
According to apartheid.
According to apartheid.
Okay.
Yeah, that is according to apartheid. And the woman was supposed to be jailed 5 years, according to Trevor Noah. Now, I would like to ask, because now apartheid is over, did you find people relating? Do you see as if the people are relating white and white? They are talking, or they are moving together, or they are worshiping together, doing things together?
The church we went to was that way. I
It
mean,
was
mhm.
interracial.
Interracial. It was many different races in that one church, which was really, and it was really beautiful.
It was,
Yeah.
okay.
And also in the shopping centers, you would see black, white, or white, black couples. So it was, I didn't see anything that, and nobody, did a double take. Everybody acted as if this was normal.
Okay.
Where you have black and white together.
But let me go back to something you said, something. That was the whole purpose of this course, this class. Dr. Ivy and I, we sat down and thought about that. That true, it's no culture better than any culture, but you don't know that until you get put in that situation. And that was one of the experiences that we wanted for the students, was so how can we here at Beulah Heights University talk about being a relevant Christian leader in ministry and marketplace if the students never experience the marketplace. So that was one of the main things, that to get there, you begin to see that there is a commonality, in culture. And culture defines the values and the meanings and how people make sense of things. It comes from the culture. So that was one of the main focus of this course. But I sort of want to raise this question that with the group that went there. How do you see yourself developing the skill set for you to become a global leader, or to continue your development as a global leader? Because I think that's the call of the Bible, that we are to go out into the world and share the message. But how do you see, what are some of the skill sets you identified, or skill set that you might need to work on in your educational journey?
I'm thinking, and basically with the courses that I've had, or the courses that I'm having now, is to narrow my focus. In other words, to bring it in that we talked about that niche. What am I good at? What am I called to do? What is my purpose? And in doing something like that is focusing on my purpose, focusing on my calling. What am I good at? So I'm thinking by being aware, taking this class has brought that brought it forefront to me, that now I know I've been brought to the point that I can use what I've found or learned, that I can go out into the marketplace, not as a broad brush, but as a narrow brush, that I can aim and focus on a niche. And to me, my niche is basically built into religion. When we've all talked about being religious, but yet and still narrowing even that religious aspect to a point that you can't talk about it all. You have to focus that niche in order to be effective. And at the same time as dealing with the other part that I'm interested in, as marrying them together, is real estate. What about that niche in real estate and that niche in the ministry that can be bind together, that would be beneficial to the whole, which is the community at large? And I saw this in Cape Town, as when we went to this church, dealing with the doctor, whereas that he has this umbrella of where they serve over 8,000 meals a week. But yet and still they was talking about this, I think it was something like a $3 to $5 million church. So there you had dealing with ministry, and then you were also dealing with real estate, land. So I'm thinking what he has found a way that has a niche that he knows that he can feed and help the community. At the same time, he want to build in such a way that he can do more. So that's what I found.
Okay. Maria, Cheryl?
What can I do? I was thinking several times while in South Africa at the church services that we attended, the phrase of, being a global ministry leader, minister, allows you to think big, think broader, as well as reach out, but at the same time reach in. One of the things I learned, and I guess to exemplify that, is, as stated earlier, just really asking the questions, thinking outside of the box of what the norm. I attend services at a particular ministry, but with a global mindset, I should want to even look outside of what we're doing to, yes, reach out, but also to find out how others are doing what they're doing, how to be more effective as a leader, which I think is a global mindset. Even if I'm still in my same location, the mindset tells you to reach out beyond your norm, beyond what you're used to doing, beyond what you're used to seeing. Think bigger than that, or think outside of that. And I believe that I will see, not just myself, but each one of us will see a greater impact as a result of it. And so myself, even as I went to South Africa, I was sitting a couple of times just thinking and listening, And I must say, I began to have greater vision. I saw myself doing some things that I didn't see myself doing prior. And I know that's the direct result of expanding myself and not being so closed. And so I plan to have more of those kind of experiences here in America, U.S. as well as outside. Just allow myself to grow from the inside out, to be more effective. Like my brother here said, at whatever it is that I do, I believe that it will cause me to be more effective.
I remember one of my professors used to say to us, how can you answer questions that you have not raised? And what I'm hearing from you is that being able to go and to experience that, now you're raising questions that's pulling you somewhere.
Exactly.
And it'll be interesting to see where it takes you.
Exactly. If I could just say this, I was stretched. I didn't know my assignment until I got there. And I was, it was something just to think you're on a global platform. That was an experience all by itself. But on top of that, I was given the assignment to talk about global leadership. And I'm like, wow. And so I was so blessed. It stretched me. It really did. It opened up some doors, some avenues, some thinking, and I'm sure I could have talked about it right here, in my own home, my own grounds, but I think I was able to explore it on a whole nother level. And the things that even came out of me amazed me. So I had a couple of comments that from people that didn't even know me. They was like, "You surprised me." I'm sitting there like, "Yeah, I surprised myself." I gotta do this more often, but it has a tendency when you open yourself up to pull out of you what you didn't even know was there. And so as a global leader and as a global person, period, you set yourself up really to just be enlarged.
I like that, to be enlarged. That's a good soundbite, to be enlarged. But again, we want to say to the Facebook family out there that's watching, if you have questions, you can send them to them, and I can let these global leaders wrestle with that question. Go ahead.
I was touched by a lot of things I seen. My study is Masters of Divinity, as I explained before. So my approach to anything will be on a spiritual level, but I also understand that leaders have to do what needs to be done in order to make things move forward. And you have to understand the difference. So when I'm out there, I'm going to say, God, show me the way. Lead me. I have to stay open because you never know what could happen at any time. And if God is exposing you to something, why is that happening? I'm going to tell you now, there are still some people I think about that I met when I was in South Africa. One of those is a lady named Sandra. She really touched my heart. Going to an orphanage, and they talked about a little boy named Jeremiah and how he came into the orphanage at 4 days old. I still think about those things. Okay, so God, what do you want me to do here in the United States that may be able to encourage assistance there, even though I'm still here? I have to learn, I have to be led in such a way to be able to work here, listen to my leaders that are teaching me while I'm here, because that's just wisdom. To get the knowledge I need in order to manage here and globally. So I'm looking for my leaders to teach me while I'm still in this atmosphere, while I'm still gaining the instructions that I need. Because evidently there's something that I don't have yet that God needs me to see in order to be able to be that leader that is needed wherever God sends me. In this case, this time, it was Cape Town, South Africa.
And you know, one of the things, because the course objectives was, first of all, understand the connection between self and culture. Compare and contrast differences in societies, countries, and cultures. Gain skills to navigate unfamiliar cultures and situations. Appreciate diversity to critically inform perspectives on relationships, organization, and society. Develop a deeper understanding and appreciation for other cultures, particularly focus on South Africa. Did this trip, did it meet those expectations for you?
I think it did. Matter of fact, it wouldn't be a stretch because South Africa, the part that we came into, I came to, is westernized. It's one or two things could be. They were able to relate to us on our level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I assume that we were able to relate to them on that level that they had in reserve for us. Because most of the people, or the Afrikaners, they speak at least 3 languages, minimum. So when we come in speaking English, then they could speak with us, but if they wanted to communicate with somebody that didn't understand that particular English word, then they could speak in the Afrikaner, and they say, oh, you know. So I see how the culture, I think when it comes down to, I think there's a term that the Africans use, Ubuntu, I believe, Ubuntu. It's more or less, it's a spirit, it's a psychological term that describes a period that says that I am because of you. In other words, you make me. Mm-hmm. So when that type of spirit is around, it's almost like it's universal. You do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. So if you want love, you have to give love. And in that process, I saw that where we, from day one, it was a giving. In other words, they gave. It was not like it was a chore, because I think at one time I'm saying, wait, we can do some things for ourselves, but we don't have to have all of this service. But it seemed like it was not so much a chore that they wanted to do. So when you talk about what the course was outlined to do and whether or not it met its objective, I can't say that 100% because I'm still growing. I'm still seeing those things, but I think the seed has been planted that we can go from here. That as far as the culture is concerned, and before I get too far off here, I'm just amazed how it was like little pieces that we was able to see. That we saw the homelessness, but we also went in an area where we were told that this area was bought by a Caucasian for people that worked on the railroad, that it gave a sense of entitlement. We also was able to sit down and talk with the man who actually owned the church and the surrounding, that he gave us a history of his Dutch relative, that they said we were against apartheid. That's another little bit. And then we went to a house to have dinner that was served wine only to find out that South Africa is the 8th largest producer of wine in the world. So all of that in that place, you know, not leaving out the scenery, going to the mountains, the beaches. Had it not been for their riding on the, I won't say the wrong side of the road, but driving on the left-hand side, it could be any metropolitan city in America.
Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a chance to, you know, going back to, did it meet the objectives? Did the trip solidify the objectives of the course?
I believe that the objectives that you mentioned were met. We definitely experienced a different culture and was able to see diversity
Yes.
up close and personal. But as my brother John mentioned, there was still a lot of similarities. I remember walking in the mall, and I guess that probably was my least favorite experience. And the reason being, it was so similar to our malls here. And I almost felt like, okay, I didn't travel all the way over here to go to our mall. But that just goes to show you, as he said, it is very westernized. It was, when I landed, when we landed, the plane landed, and it didn't hit me for a while. I was glad to have feet on the ground after flying for so long, but I didn't really know what to expect. And I would say that had I expected, known what to expect, I still would have, it would have exceeded that expectation because, you know how we're used to seeing pictures on TV and of places, but it really didn't do justice. I often ponder and think about the beauty of the country of Africa. I've only seen a small glimpse of it, but it's a very beautiful place. And another thought that came to my mind was such beauty. You know, there had been such turmoil and, you know, just the price that was paid to experience what I experienced was overwhelming. And so I do believe that the expectations of the course was met. And as also, to reference John again, it's still being met because I personally am still growing from it and taking it all in.
My answer is yes. And I'm just gonna give a couple of examples. Even though we didn't see any kind of violence, and I don't think there still is violence, Trevor Noah, I can't remember the exact term he used, but he talked about a situation where tires were put on people and then gasoline was poured over them and they were burned. I actually heard that conversation while I was right there in Cape Town. I heard him talking about that. There was a situation when we went to Chinatown, looking for some baggage and everything, and one of the ladies, and she was a white lady, but she was Asian. And as soon as we went in to ask a question, I could sense, and just something in me just said, well, she went to pointed out the young lady for us to talk to. She actually automatically looked up at that young lady like she was automatically supposed to help us because we were black. it didn't matter that we were U.S. citizens or anything, but upon approach, she wouldn't have known that until she heard us speak. So those were some of the things that we were learning in class. And there it was. So yes, there was some exposure to a little bit, not a lot, but it was there. There's still traces. And knowing this and understanding this, okay, yes, this class has actually showed us, and the material that we were reviewing actually helped us so that we would be more aware of what we could be exposed to while we were there. Yes.
So close this out, and it was Nelson Mandela's, leadership style as a transformational leader that this inspired me and Dr. Ivy in putting this course together. So in a brief synopsis, could you say something about, do you still feel the presence of Mandela's leadership in South Africa? Or what is it that you sense about the greatness of his leadership? And so we're brief summary of that, brief statement, so we can close this out. And again, we want to say thank you to the Facebook audience that's viewing this, and I'd like to invite you to come here to Beulah Heights University in our Discovery Days. You can sit in on the class and experience what we do in the classroom, as well as just come and check out Beulah Heights University. It's a university that is a global setting because we have so many different demographics, ethnicity, and cultures here on the campus. So it's a place that you actually experience it. So just a brief synopsis of Nelson Mandela's leadership in the country and what you sense in being there.
I would like to start off by saying his presence and his life lived an example, and his leadership was very much felt by myself, and I'm sure my classmates. When I think about our trip to Robben Island, which is the prison in which he was housed in, I think, for 18 years, and he was in prison 27.
Yeah.
They told me they moved him after 18 to another location.
Mm-hmm.
But even before we got to Robben Island, we had to purchase the tickets in advance, even though I didn't know we did that in advance. But the reason we did it in advance, when we got there was lines of people that came out to purchase tickets that were turned away.
Wow.
Because there was no more room for people. They had to tell them, come back another day, come back tomorrow. We gotta cut it off. So that was one of the eye openers of just what I was about to experience. It was every culture of person that you could think of that were going over to do the tour. And I was amazed. I looked around and people, wanted to know more about the experience, about Nelson Mandela's life, questions that came forth. It was amazing. I believe I mentioned once before, also, if you were privy to hear any of the news or even go into the stores, you saw Nelson Mandela picture everywhere.
Statues.
You saw statues, you saw articles, they even spoke of him on the radio. And I was amazed also there because here in the US, when someone dies, no matter how famous or how of a figure, political, whatever figure you are, it's been years later and you hear his name constantly even in conversation, we had a conversation while I was there where they talked about, we really miss Mandela. And I'm like, wow. So definitely, I had no idea just the impact, even though after reading the book, and of course we hear about Nelson Mandela here, but my perception of the long-lasting effect was really nothing close to what I experienced. I had no idea.
Well, I think that he is very, even in depth, profound as far as the community is concerned. Looking at the things that I think that he stood for, number one was education. And it's almost, the whole country is geared towards education in some form. Matter of fact, when we went to the nursery, where we were supposed to be teaching them the American Pledge of Allegiance, and they were able to come back with us and give us the South African national anthem. It was the students that they knew, and it appears that the education is there. Also, the spirit is no compromising. You know, it seemed like if you have something that this is what you want to do, then using what his plan was, if he held on to it, say, I'm going to stay here, and this is going to be me until things change. Going to be a change coming in, and never give up. He never gave up. You know, he just continued in that steadfastness. And true, as Maria said, that there is talk, black and white. Matter of fact, they use him as a reference. If he were here, you know, if he were here, then so and so would not do that, or it would be this way, and we would have better position. Matter of fact, I think they said that he was in his death, even though he was dead, they couldn't announce that he was dead for so many days because they wanted to get things together. If they just said he's dead without coming together to bring folks together and saying this is how we need to act, then it probably would have been chaos. So yes, he is definitely an influence as far as the book is concerned. I think that I see now that talk about this Ubuntu, that he was supposed to be affected by the spirit, that where I am because you are, and I'll just stop by that. But it's not an end as far as Mandela is concerned. I think he is I would say a spirit. His life and legacy is more of a spirit that is ongoing. I'll stop there.
You know that the people that knew we were coming were the church that we were going to. Not everyone knew we were coming, but we were sitting up in our house one day where they had us set up for the time we were there. And 3 different days, there was a movie that came on regular TV about Nelson Mandela. I was like, wow. So each time, I took the time to sit and watch the movie where they were either talking more about Nelson or his wife. It was very interesting. Although I had already read the book, I had purchased the magazine, and I had went through the magazine, listening to the tour guide talk about Nelson. He said he was a very popular man, even though he was in jail. Everyone, when it came to Mandela, everyone just had to stop and listen. He had that kind of personality. Yes, Nelson is very prominent there still today. just like us here, we think about great leaders like President Barack Obama, like Martin Luther King. They are great leaders that have stood out for us. And Nelson Mandela is a great leader that has stood out for Africa. Thank you.
Well,
I would just like to briefly talk about the sponsor for just a minute. Pastor Maddie Lempsey. That's one of the, when I was talking about the love, and I think everybody would be in agreement how they expressed that with the congregation. It appears that it was a labor to them. I didn't see in their face, oh Lord, I got to deal with these folks tonight.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed like it was like with love.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking that that was something that made the trip even more fulfilling, if there's such a thing could
Yes,
be.
that's true.
And I think that if, in recommendation, I think the school should consider this to do it again.
Yes, most definitely.
well, I want to say before we close, I just want to say to each of you and to Sean, how proud I am as a professor that you all's courage and energy, that you made a dream a reality for me. And as a professor, it's always a joy to see students that not only hear a lesson, but they live the lesson. So if it's my goal and my desire that this was the beginning, but it's because of you all's courage and tenacity and energy that now it's not going to be that hard to convince. But that's the purpose, and I know each of you came back transformed.
Yes.
Most definitely.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so this is what we do here at Beulah Heights University. We are a world-class university, and we can develop you to be a global leader in ministry and marketplace and be relevant, because our course content is designed that way to not only give you the theory, but to give you the practice of doing what we teach in the classroom. So we're registering for the summer months. Still got time to make it here, and just take a class, just experience it. Just come and check us out, because I believe Beulah Heights is the best kept secret in the world. So come and check out this treasure chest of wisdom and knowledge and students that can empower you to do what God has called you to do in your life. So again, we want to thank you for just watching. Share this with a friend and tell them about Beulah Heights University.